Hey, USA, it's just me. And as you know, I'm nobody, just an American. And this is just an American moment. This is the podcast where we ask the questions that the mainstream media isn't asking. And we provide both answers and solutions to those questions that the political class are either not answering or refusing to answer. And so I hope you enjoy today's podcast because we're going to deal with two subjects that have really been irking me this week. The first one has to do with the so called climate conference or virtual climate conference that was held. You know, this is where world leaders, each with their own agenda, gets together and talk about how they're going to address the issue of climate science and climate change. And this was hosted by none other than Joe Biden, John Kerry, and Tony Blinken. You know, Mo, Larry, and Curly, the Three Stooges. Uh, it's funny because this is a topic actually that in my book I address in detail in a chapter called "A Cure for Chicken Little." You know, I think it was about 20 years ago or so when Al Gore said to us that the world as we know it wouldn't exist in 2020, 2021. Um, but here we are, and things haven't really changed. In fact, some things have gotten better. And I think it was AOC who said just a few years ago that we only have 12 years left. 12 years. Well, that must mean it's 8 years now. And they're talking about paying for climate initiatives all the way through to 2050. Well, if we only have 8 years left, let's party. I mean, really, let's spend the money because we're all going to be dead anyhow, according to these people. Nothing like a little fear to get people concerned. But it's not what I really want to talk about this week. What I want to talk about is something that I saw on, it was either CNN or MSNBC, where they had a 20 something year old pundit who was talking about the climate conference. And in the course of her comments, she said how she was suffering from climate anxiety. Climate anxiety. Did you hear me? No one ever better let this woman go see the Bruce Willis movie Armageddon. God knows what kind of anxiety she'll have. And don't ever, ever bring her into a greenhouse because she's liable to go into botanical arrest. I mean, seriously. You know, the the kind of anxiety, what she should be concerned about, quite honestly, is a fact that's out there, but most people don't pay attention to, which is the fact that the ratio of deaths in cold weather versus warm weather is 5 to 1. 5 to 1. So if you ask me, I'm opting for the warm weather, folks. You can take the cold and you can shove it. But climate anxiety, let me tell you about anxiety. When I grew up, we had something called nuclear war anxiety. I mean, I could still remember a sales guy coming to my home and trying to pitch my father on a fallout shelter. Well, we were concerned. The Russians were going to nuke us. And so we should get a fallout shelter. Of course, then we watched the Twilight Zone episode about fallout shelters, and we all learned, well, that's a bad idea. Climate anxiety? How about asteroid anxiety? You know, this is where, like Armageddon, a rogue asteroid crashes into the planet and creates an apocalyptic event. Maybe we should be concerned about that. Or how about something I touch on in my book, red star anxiety? You know, our sun is going to burn out eventually, and when it does, we're all going to be dead. Or another one, I saw this on National Geographic, volcanic eruption anxiety. There are many, many volcanoes beneath the Earth's surface. Any one of them could create a cataclysmic event. So maybe we should just have that kind of anxiety. Or, no, I've got it. The worst anxiety of the past year. the toilet paper shortage anxiety. Think about that, because when you got to go and there's no toilet paper, you want to talk about an anxious moment? I thought you'd figure that one out. And last but not least, but something that we need to consider, vaccine anxiety. Vaccine anxiety, and I got my vaccine, just so you know it. Vaccine anxiety is when 1 to 2 years from now, all of us who got vaccines are going to turn into flesh eating zombies, like The Walking Dead. And the only people who are going to survive are the ones who didn't get the vaccine. I mean, maybe that's what we should be worrying about. Am I the only one who thinks this is all nuts? I mean, think about it. You've got this conference going on. Do you think that Xi and Putin give a crap about climate change and climate science? I mean, seriously, they're more interested in world domination, not the climate. They're laughing at what's going on in the United States. They're laughing at our president. They're laughing at the political left, and they're figuring out ways to use it to their advantage. I mean, you want to know really what's behind climate science and the climate agenda? Follow the money. Follow the money. Somebody's going to get rich. In fact, a bunch of people are going to get rich, and a bunch of people are going to gain power. Read about that, follow that, and you'll know the truth about this. And again, I talk about this at length in the book, and I think you'd find both the questions as well as the solutions quite interesting. But the next topic I'm going to talk about is one that we should have real anxiety over, because this comes straight from the White House. I don't know about all of you, but I was deeply, deeply offended when I heard the President and Vice President of the United States speak this week, bad-mouthing our country and saying that we are a systemically racist country. As someone who has lived and worked all around the world, I've worked with all ethnicities, all races, all cultures, all religions, and I can tell you that the least racist country in this world is the United States of America. So why are the political left trying so hard to divide us up? Why are they trying to place us into factions? What do they gain? And the President of the United States is doing it. The problem with these people is they want to divide and conquer. And Biden, well, talk about systemic racism. Biden is the guy who just a week ago referred to the winner of the Masters tournament, Hideki Matsuyama, as that Japanese boy. Biden's the one who said, "You ain't black if you don't vote for me." Biden's the one who said, "We're going to put you all back in chains." Biden's the one who said you can't go into a 7-Eleven without detecting a slight Indian accent. Biden's the one who hailed a former KKK leader as his mentor. And we all know about all the other Bidenisms. And doesn't it crack you up a little bit that the left always says, well, that's just Joe being Joe? I keep waiting for him to end one of his speeches by just going, blah, 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 that's all, folks. The problem is that Joe and Kamala don't recognize us all as Americans. They want to put us in racial and ethnic buckets to help divide us. And they want to be the ones to define the characteristics of those buckets. Now they want the entire Caucasian population, which by the way is made up of many, many ethnic groups, to admit to being systemically racist. What a freaking insult. The fact of the matter is that they are so ill informed, and by ill informed, it's a political correct term for ignorant, that they don't even know what systemic means. They don't have a clue. They probably should look it up because we are anything but a systemically racist nation. Like most races, they don't realize that they are the true racists because typically they deflect and want to put on others what they actually are. You know, and this is a characteristic that the left has been using for years upon years. Another term like that they use these days, which cracks me up, and as a brief aside, I mentioned it in my book in the glossary section, is the word existential. Everything is an existential threat now. The fact of the matter is, these people don't have a clue what the word existential means. They have no concept or understanding whatsoever is. But they think they get away with it because they think the rest of us are too dumb to know. The reality is that Joe Biden, as I said last week, is an anachronism. Joe Biden wants to put this country back where it was in the pre-1965. He talks about slavery. He harps about Jim Crow. He talks about issues that this country has addressed already. But you know what? They'll never talk about the facts. They'll never talk about the fact that, first of all, slavery has been around for millennium upon millenniums, and all peoples have been enslaved, of all races, all ethnic backgrounds, all religious backgrounds. So get that part correct. But the fact that black slaves who came to the Western Hemisphere were sold into slavery predominantly by Arab traders and black tribes who defeated other black tribes in battle. And in point of fact, many of those slaves who were sold into slavery, had they not been, would have probably been executed by their conquerors. He also ignores the fact that the majority of slaves who came to the Western Hemisphere, first of all, more went to South America and the islands than came to what would become the United States. But they ignore all that, and they ignore the fact that they were all transported by Portuguese and British traders. Well, how do you do that? My point is, the United States has spent generations correcting a problem that started long before the United States ever existed, and we've done a damn good job of it. And we have, I think, one America, even though the politicians like to see otherwise. But I really want to focus on one final comment, and that is that the problems in America are not caused by systemic racism. They're caused by those who find opportunity in dividing Americans. And let me repeat that. The problems in America are not caused by systemic racism. They are caused by those who find opportunity in dividing America. Think about that. Hey, please buy the book. I think you're really going to find it interesting. Love to hear back from you on it. Have a good week.